Mr. Chairman, we're recording.
All right. I assume, Jonathan, you're here? Yeah, okay. He's coming on board.
He's coming on board.
All right. I now declare that the October 5th, 2021 Zoning Board of Adjustment regular meeting for Long Hill Township is called to order at 7:35. This meeting is being held by Zoom, and the notices of that Zoom meeting has been sent out. And the links have been sent out so that everybody who wants to can join. Call to order and statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the public meeting dates on the municipal bulletin board and website, by sending a copy to the Echo Sentinel and Courier News newspapers, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. And decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Announcement is made that, as a matter of procedure, it is the intention of the Zoning Board of Adjustment not to continue any matter past 10:30 p.m. at any regular or special meeting of the board, unless a motion is passed by the members then present to extend the meeting to a later specified cutoff time. Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Deb.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. I forgot to press the live stream.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're live streaming.
Okay.
Sorry.
It says
Okay.
we're live streaming.
Now I think it does. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do the roll call. Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's okay.
Where'd my roll call go? Okay. Mr. Aronio.
You're mute.
Sorry, I was on mute here.
Thank you. Mr. Giannakis is excused tonight. Mr. Grosskopf.
Here.
Mr. Malloy.
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Here.
Mr. Hain.
Here.
Ms. Robertson is excused tonight. Vice Chairman Johnson
Here.
and Chairman Correct.
Here. Thank you.
Chairman, we have a quorum. And may I suggest we introduce our new board attorney tonight?
Yeah, we will, but let's do that first then. Ladies and gentlemen of the board and the applicant and anyone who's in the public that might be listening here. I know we lose some of our constituents when we're on Zoom. Well, actually, we might gain some. I want to introduce Steve Warner. He's our newly appointed attorney. He has big high heels to fill. He comes highly recommended by the previous attorney. And although we're sorry to lose her, we're happy to get him on board and have him guide us through this year and make sure we don't go astray in our legal matters. So Steve, just introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself.
Certainly, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's a privilege to represent this board. Thank you, and to follow those high heels. And most of the board knows me, but I'm the current chairman of the Land Use Law section of the New Jersey State Bar Association. I've been doing this for more than 25 years, representing municipal land use boards throughout this area. I'm an associate counsel with the New Jersey planning officials. I teach the course, among others, that all the members here have taken. And I may have had some of the board members previously, if we go back a ways, for that certification course. This is not just my vocation, it's my avocation. As Liz Laney will tell you, we've worked together before, your planner. I love what I do, and I'm very privileged and pleased to be able to work together with this board over the next 4 months and hopefully even longer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're glad to have you. Okay, now we have the meeting minutes of September 7th, 2021. And the people that weren't present were Tom Grokoff, Mike Malloy, and Jonathan Rosenberg. Did everyone else have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any changes, corrections, or comments on them?
No.
No. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Those aye, okay. Done on that, okay. Now we have the resolutions, the Christopher Finley application number 21-05Z, which was heard on August 31st, 2021. Board action was August 31st, 2021. Memorialization is today, August 5th, 2021. And the members that were
The eligible members are Mr. Aronio, Mr. Giannakis, Mr. Grosskopf, Mr. Malloy, Mr. Rosenberg, Mr. Hain, and Chairman Correct.
right, exactly. So only Brian Johnson was absent, and Ms. Robinson is not here tonight anyway, but she wasn't eligible. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move that.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, roll
Second.
call.
Yep. Mr. Aronio,
Yes.
Mr. Hain,
Yes.
Mr. Giannakis. Sorry, he's not here
Yeah.
tonight. I forgot.
He's not here.
Mr. Grosskopf,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Chairman Correct.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right, now we have the resolution of Dana Gonzalez, application number 21-09Z. Excuse me, hearing date was, September 7th, 2021. Board action was September 7th, 2021. And the memorialization is today, October 5th, 2021. And
Only
Right.
three eligible members here tonight. We
Right.
have Mr. Hain, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Correct. And Chairman,
right.
Vice Chairman
Out of us
Johnson and Chairman
three,
Correct.
do I hear a motion?
Moved.
All right, second,
Second.
okay.
Right.
Roll call.
Vice Chairman Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Hain,
Yes.
and Chairman Correct.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next one is resolution for Mi Suk Yeon, Jeon. Hearing the application number 2019-04Z. Hearing date August 31st, board action August 31st, memorialization today, October 5th, 2021. And the people that were not eligible are none, and absent was Brian Johnson, and not eligible was Joe. So everyone
Yeah.
else is eligible. Okay. So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Aronio,
Yes.
Mr. Hain,
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf, Mr. Grosskopf.
Absent today?
Yes.
No, no.
Thank you. Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Chairman Correct.
Yes, all right, that
Motion
passes.
carries.
Thank you. Now, we have a use variance that was carried from 5/4/21, 5/18/21, 7/6/21, and 9/7/21 to be carried to November 16th, 2021, which is block 11606, lots 17 and 18, commonly known as 224-226 and 230 Main Avenue. Application number 21-03Z, known as 224-230 Main Street LLC. Applicant proposes to merge the existing two lots and construct a two-story residential apartment building consisting of 6 units on the ground floor and 5 units on the second floor. The applicant is currently bifurcating the site plan approval and seeking only the required use variances at this time. The hearing on November 16th, 2021, I assume will be Zoom. At this point, we're doing Zoom. If it's back in person, fine, we'll address that, but right now it's probably gonna be Zoom.
Yes,
But who
Mr.
knows?
Mr. Chairman, I might note, and unless Attorney Warner would like to add anything, that we had a conversation with the applicant. They have requested the date and that the board carry them to November 16th, but they will be renoticing
Okay,
both the newspaper and the public because they are they may be not, I believe that their plan is not to do the bifurcation now
Oh.
and to go forward with a site plan as well.
oh, okay, all right, so that was, all right, fine, and then what I read was inaccurate. Okay,
Well,
so now
that was the previous, that was the older, that's for the old notice, but they will be
that
renoticing.
was the old
for the
notice.
new
Okay,
date,
so we're gonna
correct.
be noticing for both. Okay, fine. All right,
Mr. Chairman?
so do I
Mr.
hear
Chair-
a motion to have them carried to November 16th, 2021?
So
I'll
moved.
move that.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good.
Thank
All
you.
right, now we get
Mr.
down to
Chairman?
the main attraction. What?
So we don't forget it, I guess, I'll cover it under old and new business, never mind.
Okay. Now we get down to the main attraction, a height variance, and also, I believe, coverage, lot coverage. Block 13204, lot 20, zone R2, known as 58 Delaware Avenue, application number 21-15Z, Patrick Dwyer. Applicant proposes a change in grade in the rear of the property, resulting in the need for a height variance. Okay. Is the applicant present?
I am.
Okay. And are you represented by an attorney, or who do you have testifying?
I am Representative Joe.
I'm his engineer.
Oh, you're the engineer. Okay. Fine. Where are you? I don't see you. Oh, I see you now. Okay, sorry. Okay, so you have an engineer testifying. Fine. Okay, we have your application. I assume all the board members have had a chance to look at it. Mr. Applicant, Mr. Dwyer, would you like to tell us what happened and why you need your height variance?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, wait a minute.
I
before we do
apologize
that-
for interrupting.
Yeah, before we do that, my mistake, I'm sorry. Would the board attorney please swear in our experts, please?
Certainly. I can swear in if you'd like both their
I am,
applicant and
well,
the
do our
engineer.
experts first, and then you can do that.
Our experts first? Okay, Ms. Laney and Mr. Keller, do you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Where'd you go, Rich?
I had to unmute.
Okay, we
Okay.
haven't seen you too. We like to see you.
You can see me
Um,
now.
Same.
Okay, we can see you now. Okay, now you can swear in his engineer.
Certainly. I have Mr. Dwyer and Mr. Madalewski. Mr. Dwyer, is Erin Dwyer also testifying this evening?
No, she's taking care of the kids.
Okay, if you could both raise your right hand, please. Do you both swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
It is.
That's an
Okay.
affirmative. Thank you very much. And
Terrific.
Mr. Chairman, I can reflect the notice because we did have an issue
Yeah.
that I need to confirm under oath for the notice to ensure jurisdiction for the board. I wanted to reflect that I reviewed the notice. The content was sufficient. It was published September 23rd, but the affidavit of service that I received signed by Erin Dwyer did not have the notarization signed. So since we cross all Ts and dot all Is, Mr. Dwyer, that certification that was provided, I can take this testimony from you under oath. That notice was sent at least 10 days prior by certified mail to the 200-foot property owners. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And Ms. Dwyer signed that document, correct? The
Yes.
notice affidavit. Thank you. And with that, I can, as an attorney admitted in the state of New Jersey, I can notarize and will notarize that affidavit based upon that testimony. But more importantly, we have the under oath testimony that the notice was certified mailed at least 10 days in advance of this evening. So now I could say that it was timely served as well as proper note content, and the board has jurisdiction to hear and decide the case this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing up those legal issues. Now, Mr. Dwyer, would you like to proceed to advise us as to your desire as for the variance and the need for same?
Sure, happy to. So we met earlier this year back in March. The plans today differ from those in that we have a walkout as opposed to a sunken exit from the rear of the house from the basement, both for aesthetic and kind of use reasons. And Joe can talk more to kind of the engineering and the site plan development results of those changes.
Well, just let us know what was, as far as usefulness of the change, what necessitated the change?
So when we had talked back in March, the board had, I forget who the individual was, had questioned the 2 walkouts that we had from the original drawings. And so we took that away, realized that the sunken walkouts weren't ideal, and that we'd prefer 1 single walkout from ground level as opposed to 2 sunken walkouts.
Okay, so that was a partly aesthetic, partly functional choice.
That's correct.
Okay, so I guess your engineer now is you can have him testify.
Yes,
And I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but if you could just give us your name and
Oh, yeah, I'm
address.
sorry,
and
Oh, yes, I'm
And the-
sorry.
yes.
And the board, sir, the board chair, I suspect will accept
Exactly,
you as an
I'm
expert.
sorry.
That's okay, in
Yes,
the
my
field of civil engineering, as the board previously accepted you in the prior application.
Yes, my name's Joseph Modulewski. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. Have been since 1990. Spent most of my career with a firm called Studer McEldowney in Clinton. They were bought out by Hatch Mott McDonald, that later changed to Mott McDonald. I retired from Mott McDonald approximately 2 years ago, and I now work part-time for Finelli Consulting Engineers in Washington.
Your
And
license to
nothing's-
practice
nothing's-
engine, I'm sorry.
Nothing's changed in your status of your licensing since the last time you testified?
No change in status.
We deem you qualified. Thank you.
Okay. Essentially, when they obtained their variance approval earlier this year, there were a number of conditions that needed to be satisfied in accordance with the approval resolution. And in preparing the revised plans for compliance with the resolution, the the applicant decided that they might prefer, rather than, and there was a question regarding whether they needed 2 basement access points, which were essentially, the applicant refers to them as sunken, but they were going to be formed concrete stairways that come out of the basement in a narrow fashion, and it created some drainage issues per se, because they weren't covered. So in rethinking everything, they said, well, would we be able to have a walkout basement, like a slider walkout? And I said, well, we'll take a look at it. And we did some preliminary grading, and it seemed that it could work, and it also fostered some, what we believe were better aspects to the plan that was approved. We were able to lower the pool elevation, eliminate some retaining walls, and I think it essentially fits the proposed pool in with the backyard much better than the previous plan. And upon submitting for compliance, it was identified that by removing the earth at the back of the house to accommodate this walkout slider from the basement, we essentially we didn't raise the roof level, but the way the building height is defined, it's from the lowest point of ground around the building to the highest point of the roof. So we essentially, by lowering it, we increased the height of the building. And that's the reason why we've come back for this new plan and variance.
I note that in our planner's report, there was no actual height on the plan. What is the actual height? Is it what What is the
Oh,
height
oh,
of the?
it went from, approximately 34 feet to 39.4 feet.
Okay, and that obviously should be noted on your plan. It wasn't.
Oh, it is on the plan.
What wasn't it on, Liz?
The architectural plans. It
The
would,
architectural plan.
yeah, the architectural plans.
Okay. Okay, do any of our experts have questions for their engineer?
Chairman, just one question before we move on.
Wait a minute,
Can someone share the?
I wanted to know
share-
if Liz or Rich had a
Right,
question.
right, but can we see a document on the screen so we can look at what we're
Sure,
looking
sure. Can you pull up, Joe or Deb? Can somebody pull up what you're talking about as far as the stairs?
I'm going to leave that up to the applicant's engineer to pull
okay.
up what they'd
All
like
right.
to show.
Just wanted to make sure
No,
somebody.
no,
could
when you
pull
say
it.
the stairs, you mean the prior basement access? Because there are
Well,
no
both,
longer any
actually.
stairs.
Show us what you had and what you have now.
Oh, I'll see what I can do.
Can you pull it up on your computer screen?
I don't have the PDF here.
Oh,
I
But
can try.
Or I
All
can
right,
pull it up from
somebody.
I can pull it up from the website.
okay. That's fine. Somebody
Well,
pull it up.
Although I don't know, my computer's not going to probably show the whole thing.
Oh.
Somebody else could do it.
It's on the Long Hill website. It's under documents on the zoning board section. If anybody can access that.
Yeah. Or Rich, do you have it available?
Let's see if
Yeah,
I
I
can
think
get
I
it.
do. I can bring it up.
Okay.
I think I might have.
Thank you.
Make sure I've got the right plans here.
Is this it?
Yes,
Okay.
that's it.
That is the new one. Yep.
That's the
Okay.
new one. Okay.
So can you just
And
walk
those-
us through? Can you just walk us through what changed from the previous?
well, the area where are you asking me to walk you through?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
yes, okay. You can see the back of the dwelling where it says proposed basement walkout. That area previously was the natural grade that exists today. And that grade has been lowered by approximately 4.5 feet to accommodate the walkout from the basement. So if you see the grade lines coming from the corner of the house nearest the driveway, it's 268, 266, 264. Those come back into the house now, creating a flat area at basement level, so that to accommodate that slider walkout. And now the basement walkout will basically be on essentially at the same elevation as the pool.
I see. And then you also mentioned that the retaining wall around the pool was changed.
Yes, before we had two retaining walls that were tiered. And what we've been able to do is reduce that to one retaining wall that's, a maximum height of 2.5 feet. And you can see that that's that dark black line, that's that arc around the back side of the pool. We've also, in order to accommodate the walkout basement, we have a small retaining wall that comes off the addition, and that's where we propose the equipment pad for the pool, so that it would be shielded from any sight line.
I see.
And what happens is, because now that whole grade was lowered, we had to kind of reinvent the stairwell from the upper deck, and that you can see there, the proposed deck stairs that would allow access to the pool area from the first floor of the dwelling.
Thank you.
And as
Any
part of the
other
changes, what we did was relocate. There was some questions about the drywall and so forth, and we have relocated that down near the shed. And in Mr. Keller's letter, he suggested slightly relocating it to the west, and we certainly can do that. He has two technical comments that we have no problem addressing in a plan revision.
Rich, could you explain the reasoning behind that so we understand?
Yeah, actually, if I can share the screen, I'll do a comparison of both. I have them both up here.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just share my screen right now. Is that, can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This is the original plan. I'm going to zoom back out and zoom back in. These are original plan basically had the pool set about 5.5 feet taller. And by the way, they need to correct the water surface elevation there, but it had the pool set about 5.5 feet taller. You can see it was set about elevation 263. There was a walkout from the basement on one side, another walkout basement on the back of the property, in addition, and a wood deck. And there were a number of issues with the fence on top of the retaining walls, retaining wall heights, the grades weren't really working very well. And even though there is mature landscape around the perimeter, the pool was set up fairly high at 268, whereas the back of the property line was at 252. And all of that disturbance in that area was possibly going to affect some of those tree roots. They are calling for some trees to be removed. A number of issues were brought up in our letter. And when they responded, I think in order to make that work, they came back with a different plan where they lowered that from 268 down to 262. So it comes down about 6 feet in height, really integrates better into the landscape. You can see the 262 contour runs right through the middle of the site. So the pool now at 262.8, 262.8, that elevation in the center is wrong, but it now sits down more integrated into the landscape. And it also allows them to lower the back of the house area so that they get a walkout at grade. So they're not coming into a 5 foot wide tunnel and coming up 10 stairs up to the grade. They've now lowered that grade. So in also doing the one wall and moving the fence to the perimeter, they no longer have the issue of having the cramped situation of having a fence on top of the wall, 2 walls, or some grade issues. And also they're not sitting it up so much on a plinth, so that they can still keep those perimeter trees, and will probably have much less visibility to the neighbors because the pool is now sitting between 5.5 and 6 feet lower in the site. So all in all, we felt it was a better integration with the property and better integration with the existing trees. All in all, a better plan to have one retaining wall in the back and expose that rear, which, while the neighbors will see more of the house, it's unlikely through the trees they will. So that, but they did pick up that technical variance, which we outlined on page 2 of our revised memo. So we felt as though the plan, stop sharing, the plan was an improvement that they realized when they went through the resolution compliance. But as indicated, it does pick up a D variance. So it's a D6 variance, I believe. So it does require 5 affirmative votes from the board. But all in all, I think it's a plan that, as we indicated in our letter, integrates more closely with the rear yard. Other than the fact that they do need to correct that one water surface elevation on the plan. We had no real technical comments other than to make the stormwater management system work. They will need to provide stormwater a permeability test, and that we did suggest that they move the dry well about 10 feet closer to the house and about 7 feet closer to the pool. That will further protect some of the trees in the area, and also that they take this soil stockpile and move that a little closer to the house also. Again, just to limit the disturbance around the roots of the mature trees that are remaining on the property. So as long as they, so we had essentially 2 technical requirements, and I think the applicant's engineer just indicated that they would comply with both of those. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Liz, do you have anything to add?
No, I just will say that the variances being requested for impervious coverage and for incursion into critical areas are the same variances that were requested in the March application and granted by the board. The D6 variance, as Rich has I think accurately characterized it, it's a technical variance. It just happens to be in excess of 10%, so it triggers the D6. It's also, I guess, now 3 stories where 2.5 stories are permitted. That is a C variance, but the actual maximum height does trigger a D6. The proofs for a D6, have to do with the impacts of the increased height on the neighbors, and how what the impact of the height would be in terms of visual impacts from the street and on the neighboring properties. And in this instance, really no change is going to be evident from the street. It's the same as it is currently. And then I think that the landscaping and so forth that is being proposed with this application, there really is going to be no visual impacts from neighboring properties of that increased height, which is in just that one location. And it really is a technical error.
So yeah, it's not really increasing the height. It's increasing the measurement for the height.
Correct.
Basically. So, all right. Any other board members have questions for either the applicant or their engineer?
Sure, just a couple. So Liz, just to clarify, you said the impervious coverages and whatnot, that's the numbers are the same as the previous application?
I believe they are. I think so, because it's essentially the same application in terms of impervious coverage.
Okay. I have a question for the applicant's engineer. On the architectural plans, I don't know if you can speak to them, but can you just explain the exposure, I guess so from the front of the street, it's going to look the same. I guess can you explain from the two sides, I guess maybe the side of the house on the plan, the left side, how that would look to the neighbor? I know we're sort of berming down. Would the exposed rear property, the larger facade on the rear, would that be visible from the neighbor on the left?
It would not be visible from either adjacent neighbor, right or left. The only neighbor that would have a chance of any perception of this increased height would be the neighbor that is directly across the back. I'm not looking up, giving a lot number.
Cedar Hollow Drive.
Yeah, it's on the road that's behind that house on Cedar Hollow. I think it's lot 15. And they actually have the same sort of a situation with a walkout basement, I believe.
Yeah, and they're all set anyway, so.
So maybe if he was sitting on his deck across the way, he would be able to see the increased foundation, let's say, of the basement.
You mentioned that the rear yard is, I think I saw in the pictures on your drawings, that there's some mature trees and whatnot.
Yes, there are. There are quite a few mature trees.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by board members for either the applicant or their engineer? None? Okay. Are there
Mr.
any
Chairman,
members?
if no board members have any, might I ask a few quick questions?
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some may be of our board professionals as well, just for confirmation for the benefit of the board, but the impervious coverage remains the same at 26%. Is that correct, Mr. Keller? And Ms. Flaney?
Yes, I mean, what I had in the March report or February actually report indicated it was 20, they were proposing 26%, and I believe that's what the board granted.
Okay. And is there any impact on steep slope disturbance? Is it greater or less than or the same as it was previously approved? If you know.
It'll be the same.
Same, thank you. And we're eliminating the retaining wall, which was a previous deviation, which was approved in the prior approval. So that arguably is an additional benefit, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And with respect to the D6 height variance, Ms. Laney, our planner, would you say that the site can accommodate the problems associated with the height greater than that permitted by the zoning ordinance and more than 10% in excess under the Grasso standard, under the Grasso case?
Yes, absolutely. The building is not really getting any taller.
Thank you. And the applicant will stipulate to the 54-inch height pool compliant fence?
Correct.
Thank you. And you already said you would stipulate to all the conditions set forth in the engineering memo. Would you stipulate to the conditions? Well, you said you'd revise the architectural plans. That was the only condition in the planning memo. So thank you. And would you also stipulate as a condition of approval, should the board so desire, to compliance with the conditions of the prior approval back in March, April of 2021, to the extent same are not inconsistent with this approval, if there is an approval tonight? Yes. Thank you. I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for that. Go ahead, Mr. Rosenberg.
Just one question, and I think I know the answer, but just looking for clarification. So if we already granted them variance on their lot coverage, why do we have to do that again? Is that because it's just because they're different? The plan is different than the original plan?
Yes, I would say that we just have to make sure that they're not increasing it. They could decrease it, but just to make sure they weren't increasing it based on the changes, that's all.
But if they affirm it, I'm sorry.
So
Liz.
this is a new application. It has
Yeah.
an application number, so theoretically, it's a brand new application, even though much of the application is the exact same, but it has a totally different number and would get processed and is a different application.
Yeah,
It's
just
an
for
excellent
technicality,
question.
we should reaffirm our
Yeah.
approval of that.
But then
So
the
it's
old application
re-granting
is,
approval. Again, it's re-granting the approval rather
Right.
than
Right,
just,
but the old application is now superseded by this and is moot.
yes.
That's correct. That's correct. Yep. And that's why prudence dictates you do it again, because technically it's not exactly the same application. And
Right,
hence my asking the question, carry forward all the prior conditions of approval to the extent
if
they're
not
not
inconsistent.
inconsistent. Yeah. So what we're handling it the prudent way and the correct way, legally and planning wise and engineering wise. So,
Any other questions? Good question, John. Any other question? Okay, are there any members of the public out there?
Yes. We have Denise Gasselberty, I believe.
Okay,
Denise?
Actually, it's her husband, Robert.
Okay.
okay.
Please state your name and your address and before asking questions.
Robert Gasselberty, 48 Delaware Avenue, Sterling, New Jersey.
Okay. Do you have a question of either the applicant or their engineer?
I have a question for the engineer.
Okay.
Given the changes in the plan as far as, repositioning the pool deeper and digging a lot more, removing a lot more dirt from the foundation, what impact will this have on my property, which is, we're looking at the street to the right of the Dwyer's proposed pool and so forth and walkout as far as drainage goes? I mean, I saw the old plans and I see the new plans now. It's quite different from what you had previously approved.
It is different, but there will be no change in the impact of drainage from the previous plan. In fact, it may even be improved from the previous plan.
One other question, from what I see, the dry well is now being moved to the back of the property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And will that then save those trees that were intended to be removed from that area? It won't impact the roots there, I think, in the
I
beginning?
believe it will, yes.
Okay.
There's still, I think there's still one tree there that will be removed, but I think prior there was at least 2 or 3 trees that were impacted.
So presently, just to make a comment, I have had no water issues on my property at all.
Sir, before you make comment, we have to swear you in. So
Okay.
I can swear you in. Why don't I have my attorney swear you in, because I don't want to have to bring you back to say something. So go ahead, Steve.
Certainly. And is it possible, Mr. Gasselberty, to see you raise your hand? Do you have your video?
Well, no, I generally, Steve, I'm sorry. I usually, members of the public are just usually attendees. I mean, if the board, I can bring him in as a panelist, but.
And then he could use his video and raise his right hand? I'll
Sure.
defer to the chair.
We don't normally do that. We don't need to, just.
Okay,
We'll
that's
take his
fine.
word
Then,
for
Mr.
it.
Gasselberty, please raise your right hand and I'll trust you that you are. Do you
I
swear
am.
to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gasselberty.
So go
Please
ahead, you can
proceed.
state your comments now.
Let me get my train of thought here. My
We're
question.
talking about drainage.
Yes, the drainage. As I was saying, I've had no problems with drainage on my property at this point in time. What action do I have if there tends to be some drainage issues on my property after the building is complete and so forth?
Who's that a question to?
That's to the engineer or anyone on the board.
Engineer, I mean, are you asking what is your remedy if something does happen, or what are they doing to ensure it doesn't happen? What are you asking?
I guess both of those questions would apply.
Well, the engineer can only answer what they're doing to prevent water from going on your property. As far as the other question goes, we'll deal with that. But if their
Okay.
engineer wants to comment on
All right,
what he
well,
believes,
as part of the prior application, we were requested to see if to tie in the roof drainage from the front corner of the house that would be on your side, as well as the rear corner. So the roof drainage will be tied in on your side of the applicant's property to the dry well directly. And by lowering the grade in the backyard by approximately 5 feet where the pool is, though the grade now from your common property line with the applicant is now actually the grades being lowered so that any surface runoff at the property line would actually be directed centrally to the applicant's property. So I don't foresee you getting any runoff from the applicant's property.
Okay. And the second part of that question for the board?
well, the second part is a legal question. So,
Okay.
I mean, that, I don't know whether our attorney wants to give you legal advice, but normally that's not the way it works. Steve, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. No, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very prescient. I cannot give Mr. Gasalberti legal advice. But let's say that if there is an approval and there are conditions of approval, including stormwater management conditions of approval, there is compliance that our township does with respect to ensuring compliance with those conditions, including the stormwater management conditions. If you have issues, you're free to pursue your own legal advice. Or potentially contact the appropriate municipal representatives if you think there's an issue, but the applicant will be required to comply strictly with any approval and all the conditions of that approval, including the stormwater management conditions. And again, there are compliance monitoring and mechanisms that the township will utilize without liability, but of their own choice.
Yeah,
That's the best I could give you.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you. That was very
Gasalberti,
helpful.
we tend to, on the board, we do tend to be careful about water drainage, and we do tend to be very mindful of that.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, and thank you very much. I just have one other question for the applicant.
Yes.
Are you planning any perimeter fence other than what goes around the pool?
The perimeter fence will be around the perimeter of the property. There'll be a gate, like a kiddie fence around the pool. I don't know what the technical term for that is, but essentially the pool will have two fences.
Right. Do you know what type of material you'll be using for the perimeter fence?
Not at this time.
Does the engineer know what the present proposed perimeter fence will be?
Well, Mr. Dwyer, do you tend toward wood or aluminum or plastic?
What the plan specifies is a PVC fence. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I imagine there'll be a plastic privacy 54 inch.
It doesn't specify a material.
So it'll be I guess whatever, I don't know what the code is for fencing. Is it 4 feet, 5 feet high? And it'll be 4.5 feet, and it will be open, or it will be just a sealed in type fence?
I don't know if it's gonna be a solid fence, but there is a maximum opening size that's required.
Okay.
Any other question?
Also, will there be any plantings along that fence to, as far as the cut down any visualization of the new building? That's not the new building, but the addition to the home on that side as well. That's for the engineer.
There are some 6-foot high at planting. There are 1, 2, 3 evergreens that are planted on your side of the property
I see.
to supplement the existing trees that are there.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And I
Thank
wish
you.
you well with the project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gasparelli. Thank you. Any
Mr.
other
Chairman,
members of-
I have a question that follows
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
resident's questions, and I guess this will be to our engineer. Apparently, the property slopes towards the resident that was just asking questions towards his property. Is that correct?
No, the topography provided shows that the neighbor to the right is actually higher than this property, at least their house is, and their backyard is too. And obviously by the previous plan where the applicant was filling the rear yard by 6 feet did create drainage that would run down the sidelines. But in this particular case, by not changing the grades within the first 15 feet of the property, more of that drainage will stay on the property. The neighbor's property is higher than the subject property and will remain higher than the subject property upon development of either plan. It's just, it's even more so with the proposed plan.
Okay, so all of the neighbor who just asked questions, his entire property is higher than,
Well, and-
than this other property.
At each point, if you look at the contours, they trend to the northwest. So they're angled as they go down, which means that
Right.
if you draw a horizontal line parallel with the street through these properties, yeah, at each of those points, the neighbor would be slightly higher than the subject property. As you move back through the property at each point, according to the existing topography, they are higher and that will not change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yeah.
Members of the public, going once, going twice.
Twice.
Mr. Gasselberty, oh, no, he lowered his hand again. Okay. So no more members of the public, Mr. Chairman.
Fine, thank you. Are there any other information that either the applicant or their engineer would like to put forth before the board before we wrap it up?
Not really, just that I think this is a better plan for what the applicant is proposing.
And better in the sense that
Better
the
than the
pool's
previous plan
lower.
that was approved, right?
Yeah, the pool's lower, one retaining wall, the steps are in better location, and the drainage is better, correct?
Correct.
And aesthetically, it's better, and it just lowers the grade, so your height is measured differently.
Correct.
Okay. And you're not increasing any impervious coverage, it's the same.
Not from what was proposed on
Right.
the.
And you're even getting rid of a wall, which is
Correct.
good. So, all right. Are there any members of the public that want to make a comment about this application before we decide?
I'll check in with Mr. Gasselberry again because he did raise his hand again. So
Yeah,
let's see.
we're just talking comments.
Yep. Mr. Gasselberry? Gasselberty?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I had one more question for the engineer before.
Okay, go ahead.
It was just that, what is that height now? That you said there will be my property would be at what height after the grading is done approximately? If you can tell me that.
I don't understand the question. Your property is not going to change in height from what it is now.
No, but you had said that with the present plan, that the property, the height, as you go back to the back of the backyard, there'll be a height difference, which will be beneficial. Can you tell me what that height difference will be for the slope? I guess it's the slope that I'm referring to.
Well, the grade at the pool.
Joe, we can't hear you when you're turned away from the mic.
Okay, I have to look at the plan, so.
Yeah, I know.
The grade at the pool as proposed today is 262.8, I believe. I don't have my glasses on, but it's less than 263. Previously, it was approximately 4 or 5 feet higher. So now, if I don't know, I can't show you the plan, but previously the grade, let's say at the foundation of the addition was 268. Now it's going to be 266 and be sloped towards the pool, away from your property. So the grading that's required to transition to the pool grade actually creates a much greater slope away from your property, so that any runoff falling on surface runoff is going to be directed towards the pool, which then has a swale around the pool that exits to the rear of the property. So I'm not really sure if that answers your question, but the grade, previously the grade was more just a grade towards the rear of the property. Now it's more towards the rear center of the applicant's lot. If that explains it.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. So, all right. Any other members of the public with comments?
Going once. Going twice. No,
Done.
Mr. Chairman, you're good.
Okay. All righty. Now, is there any summation that you would like to give, Mr. Dwyer?
No, I appreciate kind of the board's consideration. Thanks to Rich and Joe in terms of summarizing more articulately than I could the changes.
Okay. All righty. Tom, would you like to start the deliberation?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is relatively easy. My personal opinion of 3 stories in our town is I don't like them, but I don't think this qualifies as 3 stories. You are digging out the back of your yard to get the nice walkout effect. I happen to have a walkout and I certainly enjoy it. It doesn't bother my neighbors at all. And yours won't. So your negative effect, your negative criteria is met in that you won't be bothering your neighbors by just lowering the existing grade. You're taking away some problems. You're gonna enjoy it a lot more. Your neighbors won't be bothered by it. I'll be in all favor of this.
Thank you. Mike?
The applicant did a really tasteful job making some changes to their property there. Based on the feedback we got from their neighbor, there doesn't seem to be strong opposition to what's being proposed here. I think the positives outweigh the negatives. I plan on voting in favor of the application.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Yeah, not much more to say. Obviously, we approved a lot of these or some of this plan prior, and as we've been told, it hasn't changed much, and that which has changed won't really, create any hardships on the neighbors. It seems to be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, and as Tom mentioned and Mike mentioned already, it doesn't really have any negative effect on the neighborhood. So I would be in support of this proposal, this proposed changes.
Thank you. Jerry?
Sorry, just having trouble getting off mute. So I really have nothing to add. For the reasons that our board members have already stated, I would also be in favor of the application.
Thank you. Scott?
I don't see any significant changes. I approve.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm in favor of the application as well. Based on the testimony, it's going to reduce the number of retaining walls. It's not visible from the street. The rear yard screened with trees. It's the same impervious coverage, provides for a better functioning use of the property. There's no detriment to the neighborhood of community. Benefits outweigh any detriments, and it's in accordance with the advanced purposes of the multiple land use law, and I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I think that this was an excellent example of our engineering and planner working with the applicant's experts to come up with a better plan that was than what was presented the last time, and coming up with something that better utilizes the design of the property and better utilizes drainage and doesn't really change anything adversely other than the technical height measurement, which is something that's an ordinance based. I think that the negatives outweigh the positives. I mean, the positives outweigh the negatives, and the negative criteria has been met. and that actually the benefits the neighbors in that sense of the drainage and the aesthetics of it. It's lower, it's less obvious to the neighbors. And I think it was a good redo of the design of this backyard. And I think it'll be more useful. So I would be in favor of it too. Can we have a resolution?
Well,
Can we have a motion?
Attorney Warner, do you want to go over the conditions again before they vote? Oh,
Yes.
Certainly, it's
What are the
and it appears to be a motion to approve the D6 height variance and all the associated bulk variance relief inclusive of the impervious coverage, the number of stories, and the balance of the bulk variance. The conditions were all the conditions set forth in Mr. Keller's engineering report of October 3. All the conditions set forth inclusive of the stormwater management related conditions and the relocation of the dry well. All the conditions set forth in the October 4, 2021 report of our planner, Ms. Slaney, including the revision to the architectural plans to include the new height of the building, pool compliant fencing, and all the conditions of the prior April 2021 approval to the extent same are not inconsistent with this approval. Those are all the conditions I have. And again, it's the D6 and the bulk variances. So as this board knows, for passage, it requires the affirmative vote of at least 5 of the 7 qualified members this evening.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay,
who was the
roll
second?
call.
Wait, who's the second?
Who was the second?
Mr. Rosenberg.
Jonathan.
Okay, Mr. Grosskopf,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Aronio,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Hain,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Grect,
Yes,
motion carries.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got just disconnected there for a second.
That's okay. I know.
No problem.
It's we're having a rough patch with the connections now.
Yeah.
Mine keeps coming up unstable. I don't know what the heck that means.
Just a comment about you, Ed.
I was just going to say that. Took the words out of my mouth. Tom, thanks. I get that way by looking at my computers at home. I think, Deb, we have some discussion about special meeting dates.
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, we can excuse the applicant and his engineer. Thank you very much for your good job you did presenting it. All
Thank
right,
you. And I appreciate all your help.
yes. So we have a question of special meeting dates.
Yes, we
And
have quite a few to
Deborah,
consider.
Would you explain to us the need for the special meeting dates and what we have
Yes.
coming up?
Well, first and foremost, as all of you know, the boards both decided to go out to bid for 2022 for board attorney. As Ventura Meisowitz is filling in, and they will also be providing us with a proposal for 2022. The boards have decided to go through the interview process for both the board attorney and for the board engineer. The zoning board itself, your schedule is so busy. I mean, at this point, we really are suggesting special meetings because as to not keep residents and applicants waiting.
Right.
So the first and foremost, the planning board has requested that the zoning board consider doing a special meeting for interviews for the board attorney for 2022 on Tuesday, the 12th, which is a week from today. That was a regular meeting of the planning board, but we would basically be canceling that and doing just a special to go into executive session to do interviews.
Okay.
So that's the first date that's proposed to the board, would be October 12th for interviews.
Now, that would be by Zoom, I assume.
Yes,
Okay. And that would be all members of the planning board, all members of the Board of Adjustment, and yourself.
Correct.
Okay. How does that meet with our schedule? Is everybody available on the 12th?
I am not available.
You're not? Oh,
I'm not.
okay. Anyone else?
I can be there.
Okay. All right. I hate to tell you this, Jerry, but I guess we got to move forward with the 12th.
I'll talk to you offline about that.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean,
Before and or after.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't want to delay it any longer than we have.
And I
to.
don't want you to do that either.
Yeah, and I think there's probably going to be some
No, I
planning
understand.
board members that are going to be vacant.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah.
All right. So what else do we have?
Okay, so do we want to vote per meeting?
Well, okay. Yes. All right.
I mean,
How
I
many-
need a vote per meeting. I'm, you know,
Fine.
so
Let's have a motion to add October 12th as a special meeting to conduct interviews for the attorney position for 2022.
So moved.
Move.
Second? Somebody second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay.
Question,
Yep.
is this 7:30? Is that what we're agreeing on?
Yes.
yes, as far as most board members as of right now have suggested that 7:30 remains to be the best time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. We got the 12th done. So
Okay.
what else?
The next date for discussion. Now, I had emailed all board members with regards to some dates in December, which we'll get to next, but the planning board has now asked the zoning board to consider what was another planning board date, but they're asking you to consider Tuesday, November 9th as the night to interview candidates for board engineer. Sorry, getting my interviews mixed up. So the planning board has asked you to consider Tuesday, November 9th as the night for the special meeting to interview candidates for the engineering position for 2022.
And Deborah, just so we know, have we received any applicants for that? Any proposals?
Not yet. The RFP
Okay.
is just going out over the wire as we speak.
We anticipate receiving enough before that date, correct?
We do.
Okay, so that would be a workable time limit as far as getting.
Well, they're both tight, but unfortunately with both board schedules and,
Oh, I know.
you know,
I just don't want to set a date that's unrealistic and we don't have enough.
oh, absolutely.
proposals.
Well,
Yeah.
it's really relying on the RFP committees, which we'll get into after the special meeting dates.
Okay. All right, so does anybody, what's people's availabilities for November 9th?
I'm good.
It's my wife's birthday, but you know, she's used to me playing.
Can't do it.
Who can't do it?
You can't do it.
Oh, I can do it. Don't worry about it. I'm in a doghouse anyway all the time.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. We're good for the 9th. Do I hear a motion to add the 9th as a special meeting?
I'll move to add the 9th as a special meeting to discuss the engineer RFPs.
Okay.
Second, third.
All right. Good. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We got the 9th.
Great. Now, the only thing then I would ask the board to possibly consider, and you may or may not, because it's been a crazy busy year. Now, the board only has, as a matter of general scheduling, the board only has one meeting scheduled for the month of December. Now, the question is based on the number of applications that we have waiting in the wings, which is roughly 10 the last
Oh my
time,
God.
I think. Yeah, and when there's more coming in. So the last time we had, I had sent you, I think, the end of this month, last month, the updated application status. I think we had about 10 waiting in the wings. So does the board want to consider adding a special meeting for applications in the month of December?
All right. What would that be, the 21st, or that would be the 14th, or what date would that be?
Well, I would say to the board that we should probably stick with Tuesday nights, because if the board so chooses to go back in person, we could run into issues with the courtroom.
No.
So-
That's still Tuesdays, the dates I was saying.
Correct. That's what I'm
The
saying.
only
Yes.
dates I was saying is the planning board planning on meeting the 14th of that.
Yes,
month.
the planning board has a meeting on
Okay.
the 14th.
So we could only meet the 21st or the 28th at that point, right?
Correct.
Okay. Would people have a preference to either the 21st or the 28th? Who would have a preference either to one of those?
I prefer the 21st.
Okay, one's
And
one's
that's-
before Christmas, one's after Christmas. So does it, what, you know,
I'm not clear. I'm sorry. Before we do that, what is the exact reason for the special meeting? Do we have a particular case that needs to be heard that night?
No, I mean, we have 10 waiting in the wings, so I can fill the schedule. That it won't be a problem.
But it's.
But I don't have anything specifically scheduled
What
at
I'm
this
saying
time.
is, instead of like, have like not being a problem filling things, but is it mandatory? I mean, do we need to do this
No, it's
to
not
conduct the
mandatory.
business of the board?
no,
It's
no,
not
no.
meant-
What she's saying
Nope.
is to facilitate a quicker resolution of some of these people that have been waiting. That's the reason she's saying it.
Okay.
Do we want to get people done before the end of the year, basically?
Okay.
I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. If you guys, say you don't want to, that's fine. I'm not pushing one way.
It's
or
not
the
that I
other.
don't want to, it's just that it's an incredibly busy time of year for me.
Oh, of course it is.
And I'm
Of
like
course.
pretty booked all of those days. So that's what I'm looking at right now, which is unbelievable, but.
You're like Santa Claus. You got to give out those gifts, right?
I wish.
Well, that's something to consider, guys. There's a lot to do around that time of year. A
Mhm.
lot of people go away.
Yes.
There's, family
Well-
obligations.
Right. And quite frankly, Mr. Chairman, as far as December adding a special right now, you don't have to make up your mind right now. I just need
Yeah.
10. I really only, no, we need 10 days because if we put an application on it, we have to
Well,
have 10 days. in
let's
advance.
do it this way. We've already added the one in November.
And the
So-
one in October.
The one in October.
Mhm.
For those two, those are basically not for applicants, basically. That's
Correct.
not for applicants.
Correct.
The one we would be adding in December would be for applicants, basically. That would be an
Correct.
applicant-based one.
Correct.
If we could hold off on deciding that, and what's coming up next at our next meeting?
On our next meeting, we have an applicant. There, a few, I don't know, I think it was 2018, 93 Morristown Road, I think it is, for the NELE, NELEH application that you guys approved a couple years ago. They're coming for an extension.
Okay.
And
that's a
then we
quick
have,
one.
that's a quick one. And then we have Ancona Restaurant, which the applicant is DOOR, DOAR LLC.
Right, that's the one he wants the outdoor stuff.
Outdoor seating, and he's I think it's 2 apartments upstairs.
Yeah.
Liz, Rich, do you remember off the top of your head? Was it? I feel like they started off with like 3 and then changed it to 2 apartments. I don't remember, but
Okay.
they're on the 19th.
Okay, so that's the 19th. What do you have coming up beyond that?
Well, honestly, I don't have anything scheduled beyond that just yet
Okay.
because I
Alright.
was I'm leery about Ancona to see if they're gonna to go into,
More than one.
yeah, and November 16th, we have 224, 230 Main Street. So that I'm saving all by itself. So Ancona would probably be bumped to December. And so on November 2nd, I would look to get, I don't know if I can get 3 residentials on that night. It depends on the nature of the applications right
Well, I
now.
got news for you, Brian. You're chairing that one because I'm working the polls.
All right.
So I may or may not, on November 2nd, I will stick to mostly residentials, and
Okay,
I may be able to, there's a couple less, what's the word I'm looking for? Contentious applications that I think
right.
we could, that I may try to get.
less
3 on.
complicated, less good. Yeah, okay.
Let's
All right,
move on.
well, it's good to get a knowledge, handle. Send me out another list of what the applicant, what
Right.
the status
But
is.
if it comes to, but honestly, on November 16th, we can wait until November 16th to revisit a possibility of adding a special meeting in December. We don't have to do that right now.
Could we add one November 30th?
No, November 30th is going to be a special meeting for the planning board because
Oh,
they have to consider the redevelopment report for the car wash location.
fine. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't considering that, but we can't consider that date. Okay.
No, unfortunately,
That's
that's not available. Yep.
That's fine. Okay. All righty. All right, then we can wait till, think about December. Everybody look at their schedules, see what their obligations are, and we'll
Right, and
revisit that.
on November 16th, we'll have a better idea of where the board is with applications as well.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. All right.
Oh, the last thing we have, the last thing under new business that I would add that I could have put on, should have put on the agenda, I apologize, is we just need to, in open record, discuss the candidates and discuss the RFP committees. We had, Chairman, I believe you had spoken to a couple of the board members offline to
Yeah, well,
confirm
we have,
who
okay,
would,
so it's Gary Giannakis and Mike Malloy are on both, the three of us, myself, Gary, and Mike are on the ones for the attorney and the engineer.
correct. And as Chairman Sando of the planning board has noted that you are the chairman,
Right.
correct, for the engineer RFP committee.
Right.
Okay.
And
Okay,
the attorney
great.
one, I guess, too.
Well, no, he
Oh.
appointed Teresa Dill, chairman of that committee.
How come he gets to a point?
Because he got to it first.
Oh, okay, fine.
He gave the planning board one and he gave you one. How about that?
That's fine. I didn't know he had the authority. Okay.
Listen, it's Dennis. I don't argue.
I don't really care. To me, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So, okay, sounds good. What else you want to discuss on that?
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right, Tom, you said you wanted to talk about?
Yes,
something?
thank you. I don't know why I thought about doing it earlier. Now's perfect. Open Public Meetings Act or whatever it is. Open public. When are we going back into the courtroom? Because I don't know how long we're allowed to do Zoom because the emergency is over.
The thing that I understand, I was talking to Guy Pazercia, and they still have a mask mandate. Now, if we want to go back in, I have no issue with that, except you have to understand we'd be wearing masks. Now, if that doesn't bother anybody, fine. I don't know how I'm going to feel about wearing a mask the whole time, but
I did it last night. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great.
okay. Wednesday night, tomorrow night, they're going to look at that again and say, are they going to put a time limit on it? Are they going to, what the limit of that is? When's it going to end? What, they're going to look at it again. So let's wait till next meeting and figure out what they said on Wednesday. Because if they put an end to that, or they decide they don't want to do it anymore, or whatever they decide, I have no problem going back in the courtroom. I just don't want somebody to say, well, I'm uncomfortable wearing a mask for 3 hours or 4 hours. I don't want that issue. I don't want to make somebody feel like they're, physically uncomfortable.
Please, no, I don't mind if we don't go back. I just don't want us as a board, as a board to get in trouble because it's no longer an emergency. You can't do Zoom. We have an attorney we can ask.
I can answer your question if you like.
Yes,
on the legality of it. I was involved in the putting together the protocols and the regulations, and I tracked the executive orders. You're good. That's a legal term, because only one of the two emergencies has been terminated. So there is still an emergency declaration, and under Executive Order 104 back in June, we remain able to be remote under the emergency protocols that were adopted in September. By the same token, you are able to go in person. So I don't know if it's the best of both worlds, but the point is you could do either one now legally. And I promise I will alert you to when that changes.
Yeah. I'm with you, Tom. I prefer to be in person. I think it's a lot better, aesthetically as far and just better communication lines. You don't have to worry about some engineer turning their back and you can't hear them. That type of thing. Or
if we are in person, do we have to wear the face diapers?
Well, that's what I was getting to before.
Okay.
Right now, town hall says you have to. Tomorrow night, they're going to look at that again and say, is there a time limit on it? What are they thinking about it? And if they change that opinion or put a time limit on it, it may affect us as to when or how we go back. We can always go back and say, well, wear the face mask. That's fine. I just want to be considerate of all members and say, would that be acceptable to you guys to sit there wearing that all the time? Go ahead, Jim.
Just one note that our next meeting on October 19th has to be the meeting on the 12th and the meeting on the 19th will be Zoom because that's what the applicants have noticed for thus far.
That's
So
fine. Okay.
based on what the township committee decides tomorrow night, and if the board wants to revisit this on the 19th, then we can take a vote to see if we stay in Zoom for November meetings or if we go back to the courtroom.
Sure.
Fair enough.
I'll double check with the committee as to what they're doing up, you know, and figure out what their mindset is for the tomorrow night's meeting. And also, you know, will we consider it? I would love to get back into the meeting room. I much prefer sitting there in person, and looking at the audience, looking at the applicant, you know, and you know, and being with you guys. I prefer that, but you know,
Dennis said as much in last week's planning board meeting. I happened to catch the end of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with them. It's just, I think we have to work under the constraints of what the township committee rules are for the building. And, you know, if everybody doesn't mind sitting there with the face mask on, that's fine. I mean, it's only for, you know, I mean, it's basically something that we have to get used to. Will we consider it next time we meet, depending on what the township says or doesn't say, or if they consider it. You know, I don't like this anymore. I mean, it works to a degree, but there's some limits, and I think it's better. So anything else, guys? All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that.
All right.
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, Steve. Good first meeting.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all. Appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you for
Thank you, and
your
welcome.
input on this application. It went well. I think we did a good job, and we did something good for somebody. All right.
Rich,
Thank you
when's your
very
last meeting?
Last
What?
day of the year, unless something rolls over into the new one. And again,
Yeah,
it's gonna, I was with great sadness. I like being on the board, but I couldn't do both boards, and my partner has some health issues and some other things moving into the new year. So
You know,
unfortunately,
Rich, it is sad because, you know, we do appreciate you, and we do like you, and we respect your knowledge, and it's going to be hard to replace people that, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's other people out there that have just as much knowledge, but it's also personality. It's the way you present. It's the way you come across with the public. That all means something to us. You know, it's not just engineering knowledge. It's the way you handle yourself in the meetings, and you do a great job. You know, you're going to be missed.
well, I appreciate that. It means a lot.
All right, guys.
Bye, Lever.
Take care, guys. See you later.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Be well, everybody.
Yeah, wait a minute, guys. I just want to talk to, could Mike stay on for a second?
Wiedersehen.